Part 2. This is about the dream of the kingdoms. We want to recap Daniel 1 before we go on. Exactly as the prophets had foretold, Nebuchadnezzar's army destroyed Jerusalem in 605 BCE. They took exiles to Babylon, the original location of the Tower of Babel. It is in modern-day Iraq. Daniel, about 15 years old, from a royal priestly lineage, was in the first group of exiles taken from Judah. He and his friends were trained for 3 years in Babylon under the king's chief eunuch. They declined to eat the king's diet of non-kosher foods and wine, so they ate only vegetables and water instead. The king remarked that they were 10 times healthier and wiser than all the other servants in the kingdom. That tells you about eating your vegetables. That's why Mom said we're needing to eat the vegetables. Daniel 2, 1-4. Now remember, he started chapter 1 in Hebrew. He starts chapter 2 in Hebrew, and he gets only into a few verses before he switches into Aramaic. Here's the beginning of it. In the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar became so troubled by a series of dreams that he could not sleep. So the king ordered the magicians, exorcists, sorcerers, and astrologers summoned to interpret the king's dreams to him. They came and stood in his presence. The king said to them, "I had a dream which keeps troubling my spirit until I know what it means." The astrologers spoke to the king in Aramaic. From that point forward, he continues the book in Aramaic. "May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we'll interpret it." No, king didn't want to do that. He didn't make it easy for him. Watch this. The king answered the astrologers, "Here is what I've decided. If you don't tell me both the dream and its interpretation, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses reduced to rubble." Are you serious? Crazy man. "But if you do state the dream and its interpretation, I'll give you presents, rewards, and great honor. Just tell me the dream and its interpretation." A second time they said, "Let His Majesty tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it." The king replied, "I see you're only trying to gain time, because you see that I've decided that if you don't tell me the dream, there is only one sentence passed on all of you. So you have conspired to mislead me with lies in the hope that time will change things." He's a nice guy, right? "Now, just tell me the dream. That will convince me that you will also be able to give me its correct interpretation." So the king is actually saying, if you can tell me my dream, then I know it's coming from supernatural input, not an educated guess. That's what he's really saying, okay? Daniel 2, 10-13. The astrologers answered the king, "Your Majesty, nobody in the world can do this. Never has a king, no matter how great and powerful, asked such a thing of any magician or exorcist or astrologer." The king is asking a difficult thing. Nobody but the gods could tell this to your Majesty. And they don't live with mere mortals. At this, the king flew into a rage and ordered all the sages of Babel put to death. When the decree was published that the sages were to be slain, they sought Daniel and his companions in order to have them put to death. They're going to get all the wise men They're going to just slaughter all of them because the dream, he hasn't been told his dream. He wants somebody to tell him his dream. Well, Daniel's wise, right? He knows exactly how to handle it. Then, choosing his words carefully, Daniel consulted Arok, captain of the royal guard, who had already gone out to kill the sages of Bavel. He said to Arok, "Since you are the king's official, let me ask, why has the king issued such a harsh decree?" Arok explained the matter to Daniel, and then Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time to tell the king the interpretation. Do you realize what just happened there? He has enough clout that he could just walk right into the king and ask him directly. Do you see how important Daniel is in this kingdom? He can just go right in and ask. Daniel 2, 17 to 20, first half. Daniel went home and made the matter known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, so that they could ask the God of heaven for mercy concerning this secret, and thus save Daniel and his companions from dying along with the other sages of Bavel. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision at night, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven in these words. Before I go to the words, I want to point out, when we need wisdom, we should be going to the God of heaven. We don't need to go ask our friends. We need to go to the God of heaven, right? That's what they did. They were wise men for a reason. This is what they were given. Blessed be the name of God from eternity past to eternity future. For wisdom and power are his alone. He brings the changes of seasons and times. He installs and deposes kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those with discernment. He reveals deep and secret things. He knows what lies in the darkness, and light dwells with him. Do you see what they've done in their prayer? They have acknowledged who he is, how great he is. We need to do that in our prayers. Not just go to him and say, "Hey, can you help me out here?" But to acknowledge who he is and that he is willing to help us. So then they go on. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors, for giving me wisdom and power and revealing to me what we wanted from you, for giving us the answer for the king. So Daniel went to Arok, whom the king had charged with destroying the sages of Bavel, and he said to him, "Don't destroy the sages of Bavel. Bring me before the king. I will give the king the interpretation." Quickly, Arok brought Daniel before the king and told him, "I have found one of the exiles of Yehuda who will reveal the interpretation to his majesty." The king said to Daniel, who had been renamed Belteshazzar, remember that's Bel, protector of his life, or also Bel protects the king. He says, "Can you tell me what I dreamed and what it means?" Drum roll, please. This is the big moment. He's going to answer. Daniel answered the king, "No sage, exorcist, magician, or astrologer can tell his majesty the secret he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who unlocks mysteries, and he has revealed to King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the Acharit HaYamim. That means the end of days. Also translated, the latter days. Do you understand what just happened? He has told the king, you have been given a dream that is unlocking the end times, the end of days. This is amazing. Here are your dream and visions that you had in your head when you were in bed. Your Majesty, when you were in bed, you began thinking about what would take place in the future. And he who reveals secrets has revealed to you what will happen. Yet this secret has not been revealed to me because I'm wiser than anyone living, but so that the meaning can be made known to your majesty, and then you can understand the thoughts of your own mind. Your majesty had a vision of a statue. Well, the king hadn't told him that. Now he's got his ears. You had a vision of a statue, very large and extremely bright. It stood in front of you, and its appearance was terrifying. The head of the statue was of fine gold. You see the statue pictured over to the right. Its chest and arms of silver. Its trunk and thighs of bronze. Its legs of iron. Its feet partly of iron and partly clay. As you watched, a stone separated itself without any human hand, struck the statue on its feet made of iron and clay, and broke them in pieces. Well, the statue has appeared before him in this dream. He has no clue why it's there and what it means. Daniel is about to tell him. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken into pieces, which became like the chaff on a threshing floor in summer. The wind blew them away without leaving a trace. But the stone which had struck the statue grew into a huge mountain that filled the whole earth. This is what you dreamt. And now we will give you the interpretation. Your Majesty, King of Kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, the strength, and the glory, so that wherever people, wild animals, or birds in the air live, he has handed them over to you, King, the King of Babylon. He's handed them over to you and enabled you to rule them all. You are the head of gold. Well, doesn't that make his head really big now? He is the head of gold. He has no idea what the rest of the dream means, but this sounds pretty good so far. But after you, another kingdom will rise, inferior to you, of course. Then a third kingdom of bronze, which will rule the whole world. The fourth kingdom will be as strong as iron. Iron can break anything into pieces, pulverize it, and crush it. So just as iron can crush anything, this kingdom will break the other kingdoms into pieces and crush them. Which kingdom is that? The fourth kingdom. The fourth kingdom. It's going to be destroying everything in its sight. Finally, you saw the feet and toes made partly of pottery, clay, and partly of iron. This will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some of the firmness of iron, since you saw the iron mixed with clay from the ground. Just as the toes of the feet were partly iron and part clay, this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. You saw the iron mixed with clay. That means that they will cement their alliances by intermarriages, but they won't stick together any more than iron blends with clay. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will establish a kingdom that will never be destroyed. That kingdom will not pass into the hands of another people. It will break to pieces and consume all those kingdoms, but it itself will stand forever. Like the stone you saw, which without human hands separated itself from the mountain and broke to pieces the iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold. The great God has revealed to the king what will come about in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is reliable. Now watch what happens to the king when he realizes that the God of heaven has given this man the dream and the interpretation. He's pretty stoked. He's pretty excited. The king, Nebuchadnezzar, fell on his face and worshiped Daniel. Wait a minute, that wasn't supposed to happen. He ordered that a grain offering and incense be offered to him. To Daniel, the king said, "Your God is indeed the God of gods, the Lord of lords, and a revealer of secrets, since you have been able to reveal this secret." So here we've got adoration for Daniel. It's misplaced. He needs to be worshiping the God of Israel who gave the information, who gave the dream to him and gave the interpretation to Daniel. Daniel 2, 48 and 49. The king promoted Daniel to a high rank, gave him many rich gifts, and made him governor of the entire province of Bavel and head of all the sages of Bavel. He's the chief of all the chiefs. He can't get any higher than that. At Daniel's request, the king put Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in charge of the affairs of the province of Bavel, while Daniel remained in attendance on the king. So what we see here is that the God of Israel equips us, anoints us, gives us wisdom, and puts us in front of kings. He does. And he gives us the wisdom to speak to those kings. And the wisdom he gives us will influence many generations to come. That's what we see in Daniel. Now, there's more to this story. There's more about the interpretation. What will happen in the future? That's what he said. This is about the future. Daniel 2, 28 and 29. There is a God in heaven who unlocks the mysteries. He has revealed to Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the Acharit HaYamim, the end of days. Here are your dream and the visions you had in your head when you were in bed. Your Majesty, when you were in bed, you began thinking about what would take place in the future. He who reveals secrets has revealed to you what will happen. Not what might happen, what will happen. God is underscoring this truth to the king, also to the reader of Daniel. This is definitely God's revelation. It is definitely going to happen exactly as it has been described. So we should be watching for these things to unfold. They are going to happen exactly as is written. Here's the interpretation. I'm going to take the dream description and then put the description of the interpretation underneath it so you can see them. Daniel 2:32. The head of the statue was fine gold. Verse 37 and 38. Your Majesty, King of Kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, power, strength, and glory, so that wherever people, wild animals, or birds in the air live, he has handed them over to you and enabled you to rule them all. You are the head of gold. He is singled out. The king is singled out, not just the Babylonian Empire. Remember, God is appealing to an egomaniac. He's got to appeal to what he understands. He is singled out. He's the head over the empire. This appeals to the king's ego. You see how God custom designs the answers for us? He does. Okay, so how about this Babylonian kingdom? This is coming from a really wonderful website called GotQuestions.org. Anything you want to look up about the Bible, you can go to that, GotQuestions.org. Okay, quote, Babylon rose from a Mesopotamian city on the Euphrates River to become a powerful city-state and later the capital city and namesake of one of the greatest empires in history. Under the Chaldean dynasty and arguably throughout the rest of history, no king surpassed the glory and absolute power of Nebuchadnezzar II's reign. Here's interpretation now of the chest and the arms of silver. After you, another kingdom will rise. It's inferior to you. Okay, so we know that much. Then we know there's another one, the trunk and thighs of bronze. That's the third kingdom, and it will rule the whole world. This picture is interesting. We have arms, chest and arms. They're connected. Why? Because there's two parts to this kingdom. When you get to the trunk, the thighs of bronze, it's unified. That kingdom was unified. You get down to the lower parts of the statue, now you have 2 legs, and then you have 10 toes. It's because of the division of the kingdoms. The statute is giving us the pictures of those divisions. Okay, now we go to the Medo-Persian conquest. This is in 539 BCE. Also from the website, gotquestions.org. Go look it up. It's a good website. The Medo-Persians, led by King Cyrus II, invaded Babylonia from the east in 539 BC, and they captured its capital, Babylon, the same year. This occurred near the end of the Babylonian exile. Within a short time, Daniel became a trusted advisor to the new Medo-Persian Empire. You see the arms, 2 arms, Medo-Persian Empire. This was an empire that came together, the Medes and the Persians. They joined together and formed a new alliance. Within a short time, Daniel became a trusted advisor to the new Medo-Persian Empire. Remember, he worked in Babylon. Babylon was swallowed up by them, but they kept Daniel. He was a good, trusted advisor. Okay, this kingdom of the Medes and the Persians was later ruled by Artaxerxes II, or Ahasuerus, who married Esther. There's a connection with Daniel's kingdom and the kingdom of Esther. The statue's 2 arms of silver were the Medes and the Persians. The chest of silver was the merged Medo-Persian Empire. That's the one that swallowed up Babylon. Remember the head of gold, and then after is the one that's the inferior kingdom. Well, they were not so bad that they didn't swallow up Babylon. Okay, now we go on. The Greek conquest by 323. In 336 BC, a time when Greece consisted of city-states and their surrounding provinces, Alexander succeeded his father Philip as the king of Macedonia. Immortalized as Alexander the Great, he was second to none in the speed with which he conquered the new lands. In only 13 years, Alexander defeated Syria and Egypt. He brought down the Medo-Persian Empire, and he went as far east as India. So Alexander had conquered what was considered at that time the whole known world. The bronze trunk, remember, that's unified, it's not divided. The bronze trunk, the Greek Empire, would rule the whole world. All of the known empires in existence at that time, they were conquered by Alexander the Great. He was, I think, aged 32 years old when he died. He was bored, he had nothing else to do, he had conquered everything. So after him, he knew he was dying. He gathered together his 4 chief generals, and he split the kingdom. And that's why we see afterward the legs that are split, okay? The Seleucid ruler, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, which means manifest God, Epiphanes, that's a nickname he called himself. I'm the manifested God. This ruler was especially brutal. He enforced Hellenization of the Jews. He profaned the temple. His actions led to the Maccabean revolt, in which Israel expelled the Greeks and gained their independence. They took back the temple that had been destroyed by Antiochus and his armies. After Alexander had passed away, his 4 generals had divided up that empire. They each ruled their own section, and thus the statue's bronze trunk and the thighs that divide after it. Do you see the picture? Okay? So it shows a unity in the torso and then a split after that. Interpretation of the dream. Daniel 2:33, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Verse 40, the 4th kingdom will be as strong as iron. Iron can break anything into pieces, pulverize it, and crush it. So just as iron can crush anything, this kingdom will break the other kingdoms into pieces and crush them. That's the 4th kingdom. Now let's hear what that is. Roman Empire. In the Macedonian War, remember that Greek started with the Macedonian Empire, and then it spread. So in the Macedonian Wars, Rome conquered Macedonia. They also conquered many Greek cities. In 146 BCE, it utterly destroyed Corinth. Remember the Corinthians in the scriptures? It utterly destroyed that. It was a major Greek city, and the Romans just utterly demolished it. During the Maccabean revolt against the Greeks, Rome supported the Jews. Rome eventually swallowed up the entire Greek Empire. Why? Because they were the ones that crushed everything in their sight. That was the Roman Empire. Quote from gotquestions.org. During the time of revolt, the Maccabees were supported by the up-and-coming Romans. As the power of Rome grew, it became an empire and swallowed up Israel/Palestine. The Jews were allowed to maintain their religious practices as long as they did not make trouble for Rome. Rome placed a series of puppet kings like the Herod family and military governors like Pilate over these various provinces. So let's think about this for a minute. Judea is a territory it's Israel, right? And then we have the conquering Babylon comes and takes them out and exiled. So Israel becomes swallowed up by Babylon. Later, the next one's the Medo-Persians who took over Babylon. That meant they got Israel. They got Israel and Judah. Then we have the Romans who come in and take over the Greek Empire, which again includes Israel and Judah. Well, this name Palestine, this is a derogatory comment from the Romans. The Romans took over the area, and who do we know that was really famous there? The Philistines, the enemies of Israel. The Philistines, the giants, Goliath, all of that. They were enemies of Israel. So when Rome conquered Israel, they just started calling them the Philistines, like that we conquered you. We got the Philistines. So this is the word Palestine. It came from Philistia. There wasn't a Palestine. It was a derogatory comment of Rome that they were making fun of the Israel people, as Israel and Judah, that you're not really Israel and Judah, you're Philistines. Okay? That's where we got the word. Understand that when we look at the war today. The Roman Empire destroyed the temple. This iron kingdom crushed anyone who stood in its way. Back to the website, godquestions.org. Quote, one of the priorities of the Roman Empire, perhaps their main priority, was peace. Really? With which it accomplished with an iron hand. Widespread persecution by the Romans did not occur until the time of Nero, that's the late 60s, and then the later emperors. In AD 70, the Roman general Titus laid waste to Jerusalem and destroyed the temple in fulfillment of Jesus' pronouncement in Luke 21:6. So what we see is during the time of Yeshua, we have the Roman Empire who's breathing down the necks of the Judeans, right? They're living among the Romans. The Romans are ruling over everything. They're letting the Jews be. They can still practice their Judaism if they want, but just don't mess with Rome, okay? That's what we're seeing. The empire that Daniel saw, or he interpreted about the statue, was that kingdom that would just crush everything, okay? And it came in the time of Yeshua, or I should say, Yeshua came in the time of Rome. Okay, Daniel 2:33, the legs of iron and the feet, partly of iron and partly of clay. So now we're going to look at the feet. Verse 41, finally you saw the feet and toes made partly of pottery clay and partly of iron. This will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some of the firmness of iron, since you saw the iron mixed with clay from the ground. Well, it's the divided Roman Empire. This is taken from a book, Ancient Book of Daniel. It's by Ken Johnson. The iron legs represented Rome at its strongest period. The feet, composed of part iron and part clay, represented the time it was divided, therefore weak. Rome remained strong and sovereign until it split into two separate kingdoms, thus the two legs, okay? Separate kingdoms in AD 325. The Eastern Division was ruled from Constantinople. The Western Division of Rome was ruled from Rome. This division continued until AD 476, when both halves of Rome fell to invaders from the north. Okay, iron, legs of iron, feet partly of iron, partly of clay. Verse 42, just as the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. You saw the iron mixed with clay. That means that they will cement their alliances by intermarriages, but they won't stick together any more than iron blends with clay. So they have a mix of people, and the mix of the people is causing weakness. 10 toes. This is taken from DanielBibleProphecy.org. Quote, history shows that the Western Roman Empire divided into 10 separate kingdoms. Alemanni, Franks, Burgundians, Suevi, Vandals, Visigoths, Anglo-Saxons, Ostrogoths, Lombards, and the Heruli. This is the order that they came into prominence in the Western Empire. History is also unmistakable as to who uprooted the 3 exterminated kingdoms. It can be attributed to one power only, and this power is the Papal Church of Rome. Next slide shows us the division. I don't know if you can read them way in the back. That's the divisions in order. Number 1 on the top left box, Alemanni, that's Germany. So did you know that Germany was a part of the Roman Empire? Next one, France. Next one, Switzerland. Next one, Portugal. Then there was the Vandals, but they've been exterminated now. The Visigoths ended up as Spain. Anglo-Saxons ended up as England. The Ostrogoths, they're exterminated now. Lombards were Italy. And Heruli, exterminated. So there's 3 different groups that are no longer. There's 7 remaining. Out of 10 divisions. We got toes, 10 toes, right? There's our 10. So let's recap this. Before Daniel's time, that's 722 BCE, the Assyrian Empire captured Israel and exiled all the people to Assyria. 10 tribes assimilated into the culture. 612 BCE, Babylon and the Medes collaborated to conquer Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire. This then collapsed Assyria. Then during Daniel's time, when the dream, the statue is occurring, 586 BCE, the Babylonian Empire captured Judah and took the elites, kings, priests, and scribes, and Daniel and his friends to Babylon. The Jews did not assimilate. That means they kept their Judaism, they kept their scriptures, they kept their Torah studies, they kept their holy days, even though they were in a foreign land. 550 BCE, the Medes and the Persians were close allies, and then Cyrus the Great took over the Medo-Persian Empire. Eventually they called it the Persian Empire, and it still exists today. Now, what about this stone? What about the stone? That was the end of all the kingdoms. Daniel 2, 34 and 35. As you watched, a stone separated itself without any human hand, struck the statue on its feet made of iron and clay, and broke them in pieces. What that tells me is that the stone interrupts that last kingdom, right? That kingdom, that fourth kingdom, is in existence when the stone shows up. Okay? Just pay attention to that. Then, the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken into pieces, which became like the chaff on a threshing floor in summer. The wind blew them away without leaving a trace. But the stone, which had struck the statue, grew into a huge mountain that filled the whole earth. I have a question. If that's the eternal kingdom, is that future or is that now? Hold your question, just think about it. Think about that question. Daniel 2, 44 to 45. In the days of those kings, of the statue, the God of heaven will establish a kingdom that will never be destroyed. And that kingdom will not pass into the hands of another people. It will break to pieces and consume all those kingdoms, but it itself will stand forever. Like the stone you saw, which without human hands separated itself from the mountain and broke to pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God has revealed to the king what will come about in the future. The dream is true. Its interpretation is reliable. This is a forever kingdom, right? The stone is going to bring in the eternal kingdom. Daniel 2:44, the kingdom that will never be destroyed. It will not pass. It will stand forever. Let's look at some other scriptures. Isaiah 40, verse 8, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. The kingdom is related to the word. Luke 21:33, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will certainly not pass away. I'm just using the words in Daniel, right? It will not pass. Deuteronomy 9:10, Adonai gave me the 2 stone, did you hear that? Stone tablets, inscribed by the finger of God, and on them was written every word Adonai had said. His words will not pass away. Do you see the stone, the commandments? Are you connecting the dots? Yeshua is the stone. He's the living word. Genesis 49:24, he is called the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Isaiah 28:12, look, I'm laying in Zion a tested stone, a costly cornerstone, a firm foundation stone. Do you hear it? Stone, stone, stone. The stone is striking the statue. And it's going to destroy all the kingdoms. Acts 4:11. This Yeshua is the stone rejected by you builders, which has become the cornerstone. Ephesians 2:19-20. You are fellow citizens with God's people and members of God's family, built on the foundation of the emissaries and prophets, with the cornerstone being Yeshua, the Messiah himself. Here's another example of being struck by a stone. 1 Samuel 17, verse 4 and verse 8. There came out a champion from the camp of the Philistines, right, named Goliath from Gath. Gol from Gath. Golgotha. Did you catch that? Gol from Gath, who was 9 feet 9 inches tall. The Philistines added, I challenge Israel's army today. Give me a man and we'll fight it out. 1 Samuel 17, verse 50-51. David defeated the Philistine with a sling and a stone, striking the Philistine and killing him. But David had no sword in his hand. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine, took his sword, drew it out of its sheath, and finished killing him, cutting off his head with it. David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem. And now we look at Matthew 27:33, the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Gol from Goth, Golgotha. Is that a big wow? Isn't that amazing? So we have 4 earthly kingdoms. We have the head of gold, Babylon. We have the chest and the arms of silver, the Medo-Persian Empire. We had the trunk and the thighs of bronze, the Greek Empire. We had the legs of iron, feet of iron and clay, mixed together, Rome. And then it's the eternal kingdom. The stone struck the statue's feet. The stone, Yeshua, interrupted during the kingdom of the Roman Empire, right? The Roman Empire was, they were in rulership. Yeshua shows up. He's the stone. He strikes the statue. He's the one who brings that stone and spreads it all, becomes a big mountain and fills the whole earth. That is our stone of Israel. Yeshua is the stone. Amen. Summary, chapter 2. Daniel 2 provides absolutely accurate details of the future kingdoms and the order of the conquests. The Babylonian Empire fell to the Medo-Persian Empire. 2 kingdoms merged together. The dream was of 2 arms joined together at the chest. The Greek Empire came next as an undivided torso. The 2-headed Roman Empire, led from Italy and Byzantium, was represented with 2 iron legs and then divided into 10 toes of clay mixed with iron. The stone of the eternal kingdom struck the feet. That means that the eternal kingdom entered at the time of Yeshua. Do you get that? We are in that process of dismantling the statue. We are in the process of watching the eternal kingdom come into being. This is now. This is now. The stone already struck the statue. Yeshua already came during the Roman Empire. He already disrupted what was going on. The stone has already been growing into a mountain and filling the whole world. Do I get an amen for that? Amen. Okay, we are going to take another break. Let's say 5 minutes. Can we do 5? And then we'll come back and do part 3. Okay? Thank you.